Hey guys, welcome back. It is time for my first monthly wrap up on YouTube. I do these in picture form over on Instagram. I've even done them as like short form content over on TikTok, but this is my first ever YouTube book monthly wrap up. In the month of July, I read 12 books and I DNF'd one. So that's a pretty good reading month. I'd say that's pretty average. I normally average per month anywhere from 10 to 15 books, give or take. That's kind of the cadence that I've been going at in the year of 2023, but obviously sometimes I'll read more than that, sometimes less. So this month was pretty good. So yeah, let's just get into the books. I'm literally just doing these in the order that I read them in. So the first book that I completed in July of this year was Guarded Treasure by May Lovett. May and I are mutuals on TikTok, and she came across my For You page and I saw that she published a book that is inspired by the movie The Mummy, and I'm obsessed with The Mummy. I always have been, with Brendan Fraser and Rachel Weisz. And so when I saw that she wrote a rom-com that is inspired by The Mummy, I was like, I need it immediately. So I got it, and this was so good. It was so cute. We follow Edith and Ben, who are obviously very much inspired by Evie and Rick from The Mummy. And she's essentially turned the plot of The Mummy but into a rom-com. And it was everything that I wanted. I will tell you that this really doesn't lay in as heavy on the fantasy side of The Mummy. So for example, we really don't see the mummy like come to life or anything like that. She really more focuses on their relationship. I gave this 4 stars. Has an amazing steamy scene in this, one of the best that I've read this year probably. And I can't wait to read more of May's work. So I definitely recommend this if you want a really cute rom-com and support indie authors, go check her out. The next 2 that I read, I'm just gonna lump together, but that's number 3 and 4 in the Harry Potter series, Prisoner of Azkaban, Goblet of Fire. I've been rereading this series with a friend of mine because I haven't read this series since high school, and she rereads it almost every year, and so we are rereading all the books together, and we're gonna have a movie night once we finish all 7 of the books. This has been a lovely experience. Yeah, like I said, I haven't actually read them since high school, and that was the only time I ever read them all the way through 1 through 7. So far, Prisoner of Azkaban has definitely been my favorite. I love the movie of this. I forgot how freaking long this book was. This is when she really starts to write long, hefty books. But yeah, I'm not much to say, pretty self-explanatory. I've been enjoying rereading them, and I will continue to do so. I'm hoping to get through both 5 and 6 in the month of August, but definitely 5 at least. The next book that I read was The Godsey Heir by Sarah Hashem. This is an art copy, but it is out and published now. If you follow me on TikTok or Instagram, you guys will know that I fell in love with this book. I'm obsessed. I gave it 5 stars. In it, we follow a girl named Sylvia who is essentially in hiding because she is a Godsey. And not only that, she is the Lost Heir, the Godsey Heir, and she has powers, but they are bound by these bracelets on her wrist, so she can't really properly tap into her powers. And so she's been in hiding for several years. The other major kingdoms have been tracking her kind down and killing them off. And she is recruited by the Nazal heir named Aaron because he figures out what she is, just not who she is. And he essentially blackmails her into being his champion for this tournament that happens every few years. And he is known for being ruthless and terrifying and lethal, and his champion always wins. This absolutely blew me away. I was not prepared to love it as much as I did, especially for a debut author. Sarah's writing style is everything I love. It's witty, it's rich, it's action-packed. The pacing was beautiful, and this has one of the best slow burn romances I have ever read. It is literally like they are true enemies to lovers. So I cannot wait for the rest of this series to come out. I can't wait to read more of her writing. If you're looking for a new and fresh fantasy series, I definitely recommend picking this up. This is also, I forgot to mention, based in Egyptian lore. The next book that I tried to get through was unfortunately my DNF of the month, and I was really disappointed about this. I was really, really excited to read this book, but it just didn't quite hit all of the markers I was hoping it would. That's The Siren's Mutiny by Jessica S. Taylor. This is a self-published indie book, and I really don't like to talk poorly about self-published books, but at the same time, it's like, it is what it is. This is how I felt about it. The concept of this seemed right up my alley. This follows our main character, Bridget, and when she was a young woman, she was tossed overboard, left to fend for herself and die at sea. But the sea goddess took pity on her and transformed her into a siren. And now she and her fellow sirens wreak havoc upon men, take down ships, all the good stuff. During one of those rampages, one of those raids, she recognizes the young boy who's now a grown man, who actually tried to save her when she was still a human. So I was really excited about this, but unfortunately the writing style just wasn't for me. I got about 150 pages in and I found myself very bored. I was not a fan of either of the characters, especially the main male character, Callum, I believe that's how you pronounce it. He had this like self-righteous attitude, and then just the way he immediately attached to her, it was just giving weird vibes. Yeah, I wasn't really liking where the plot was going. I felt like some of the characters were very two-dimensional, so yeah, I decided to put it down. I just wasn't getting attached to any of the characters, any of the plot. And I'm trying to be better this year about allowing myself to DNF books if I'm not enjoying it. So I unfortunately put this down. But that said, I do know, I saw this on Instagram. That's how I knew to pick it up. And I know a lot of people love it. So if that concept sounds like it's of interest to you, I definitely recommend giving it a shot. It just wasn't for me. The next book that I read in the month of July was actually for the book club that I'm a part of. And that's Hello Beautiful by Ann Napolitano. This is a gen fiction family saga that is very much inspired by Little Women, and I gave this 3 stars. I was like really invested and on board for the first half, and then the second half was just, again, the pacing was like all of a sudden we jumped forward like 8 years, and it went from very slow, gradual pacing of getting to know the characters and hopping between like each year to, like I said, all of a sudden we jump 5, 8 years, and that just felt very discombobulating to me. Again, the characters, I really struggled to connect with any of them, and the one person that I felt like I could actually connect with, the author decided to, no spoilers, but like the author decided to take that character in a very specific path, in a very specific direction, that kind of disappointed me. Obviously, this has gotten so many rave reviews as part of Oprah's book club. I liked her writing style a lot. I think this author is very talented. I just wasn't a huge fan of where she decided to take the narrative and the plot. I felt like I was missing what I was supposed to be getting out of this book, and I just wasn't a fan of how it ended. I was kind of disappointed that way. So yeah. Also, but again, I do struggle with general fiction as a whole. I feel like that genre is so broad that you never really know what to expect anyway. So yeah, I was disappointed. I thought this would be a favorite of mine for the month, and it just kind of fell flat. The next book that I read is Cutting Teeth by Chandler Baker. Again, this is an art copy, but the book is out. I read this before going to an event where she was at, and I had never read anything by her before, so this is a first-time author for me. And this follows, the concept of this is hilarious to me. This is a like mystery thriller, but really more of a murder mystery. But we follow essentially a group of 10 4-year-olds who start to crave blood, and the narratives that we follow in this are 3 moms who are handling this situation very differently. And during all of this, the preschool teacher is found murdered. And so the suspects are these 10 4-year-old kids. We hop back and forth between the 3 different perspectives of the 3 moms. We also are able to read transcripts of the interviews between the detectives and the kids, which are hilarious. Meanwhile, you're trying to figure out who murdered this poor woman. I gave this 3.5 stars. It's not normally what I would reach for, but I really like Chandler Baker's sense of humor. In person as well, she was hilarious. I loved watching her speak. And I'm definitely interested to read more of her work. She has a book called The Husbands that came out either last year or 2 years ago. And I feel like I would really love that one a little bit more than this. This is definitely, I think anybody can enjoy it, but this definitely is a metaphor and a comment on being a parent and literally kids sucking you dry. So yeah, this is a super fun read and I'm excited to read more of her work. The next book that I read, I've already talked about ad nauseum, but that's I Who Have Never Known Men by Jacqueline Hartman. This made it into my previous video, which was my top 10 books of all time. Yeah, this book was incredible. Easy 5 stars. I'm not going to talk about it too much. If you want to hear more, I talk about it over on Instagram, so you can follow me on Instagram, and I talked about it in my top 10 videos, like I said, my top 10 favorite books videos. But this follows a group of 39 grown women and 1 young girl who are trapped in an underground caged dungeon, and they are guarded 24/7 by a few men. And one day, while they are about to feed them, they're about to unlock the door, sirens blare, the guards panic and run out, but the women are able to escape and then enter this world that they no longer know, and they don't know how they got there, and they now have to survive with just one another. And this is in the perspective of the young girl, and we follow her as she survives and gets older. And this is just such a beautiful take on the human experience. What does it mean to be human? What does it mean to love, to experience loss, grief, trying to survive? The writing style of this is some of the most beautiful writing I've ever read. Reading this main character experience mundane things for the first time blew my mind. I think everybody should give this a read. Yeah, I will be thinking about this book for years to come. I want to reread it already. Yeah, like I said, I talk about it more on Instagram and on my other video if you want to go check it out. Next book that I read in July was Andromeda's Vengeance by L.B. Benson. This is the 3rd and sadly final book in Andromeda's account by L.B. Benson. Lauren has become a good friend of mine because I practically bullied her into it. I read The Bartered Soul, which is the first book in this series last year, and immediately fell in love with the plot, the characters. This has pirates, priestesses, sorcery, enemies to lovers, smut, violence. It's fantastic. I love it. The main character, Andromeda, is just everything I want to be. She's fierce and a badass and intelligent and powerful, but she's also kind and has a wonderful heart. I can't really tell you much about this because it's the 3rd book and I don't want to spoil it, but I can put the cover of it somewhere of the first book so that you guys can check it out. I really truly love this series a lot, and I'm actually going to be interviewing Lauren on Instagram Live on August 5th, so in a week from the day that I'm filming this. So make sure you mark a calendar for that if you want to hear all about Lauren's experience writing this. It's going to be a great conversation. But yeah, if you love like pirate books, enemies to lovers, badass women, I definitely recommend reading this. This was incredible. I gave this 4.5 stars? 4 stars. 4 stars. So the next book that I read was a very, very highly anticipated one, and that's Icebreaker by Hannah Grace. This is a book that I have seen everywhere on TikTok, and I decided to finally pick it up. I wanted to see what all of the fuss was about. I'll admit, I went into this a hater. I 100% thought that I was going to really not like it. I liked it more than I thought I would, I have to say. In this, we are following two college kids. The main male character, Nathan, is a senior and he is the team captain of the hockey team. And then Anastasia is a junior and she is a partner figure skater. So they both play ice sports. And this college has two different rinks that they can each practice on, especially since the hockey team has to have their own rink for like home games and stuff. But that rink gets destroyed by somebody. And so the hockey team is now required to also share the figure skating rink, and tensions arise. You know, they obviously don't like each other at first, but romance is inevitable. Like I said, I liked this more than I thought I would. I gave it 3.5 stars. I thought that the writing was funny. I thought that there were heartwarming moments. I liked almost all of the characters, actually, but this book is way too long. Like, there's a reason why rom-coms are normally anywhere between 275 and 350 pages. This is 430 pages. I would say that's 100 pages too long, and it really started to show at the end. It was just dragging on and on and on. There were a lot of steamy scenes in here, but it got to the point where I was bored. It was like, God, another one. I also felt Nate as a character was almost too perfect in a sense. Like, it was almost hard to suspend my disbelief in certain parts, because I was like, no 22-year-old boy is gonna do that or say that, you know? Which I know is a problem for a lot of rom-coms, but this one I was like, brother, come on. Oh, also, he would call other team members on his team that were only like 2 years younger than him, kid and kiddo. And that drove me nuts, which I know is so nitpicky and specific, but like, brother, you are 2 years older than these guys. Settle down. It was still a fun read. I had a good time. I tore through it pretty easily. Whether I will read, I know she's coming out with another book that's following a different character in this, Russ, called Wildfire, I think. And it's set in summer camp. Not sure how I feel about that. I was never a summer camp girl growing up. Yeah, I did like this more than I thought I would. So 3.5 stars, if I didn't say that already. The next book that I read, I was very, very late on in comparison to what I feel like it was really popular, but Local Woman Missing by Mary Kubica. I forgot to mention which of these were TBR jar picks. Icebreaker was one, this was one, the Lost Heir was one, and I feel like there was one more that was a TBR jar pick. But recently picked this and I really liked this. I gave this 4 stars, I think. This is a thriller that kept me on my toes the entire time, and I feel like this is the first thriller I've read in a long time where I really didn't know what was going to happen. She takes us on this roller coaster, but with a very clear narrative. We hop back and forth in time. There is a woman that disappears named Shelby, and no one knows where she is. And then very soon after, another woman named Meredith and her daughter Delilah go missing as well. 11 years later, the daughter Delilah, who's now 17, shows up. And she's traumatized, she's filthy. Her father and brother pick her up, and they're trying to now uncover the mystery of where she's been and why she was taken. So yeah, this was a wild ride from page 1. Like I said, did not know how it was going to end, but I really enjoyed this. I really want to read more of her writing as well. I've said this before, but it's just, with mysteries and thrillers, it's really hard to surprise the reader nowadays because everything's been done. But this definitely did. So I highly recommend this, which again, I mean, I feel like almost everybody's read this already. I'm very late to the game, I know. Okay, the next book that I read, it's technically a series. It's multiple books, but for the sake of this video, I'm just calling it one book. The Mindfuck series by S.T. Abbey. I'm planning on doing a much longer rant about this. This book was, this bind-up of 5 books, was the highest rated book on Goodreads on my physical TBR. And I feel lied to. Like I said, I'm gonna do a longer video about this later. The basic premise is that a serial killer and an FBI agent start dating. While and the serial killer is the female in this relationship. Obviously, the FBI agent, he does not know she's the serial killer that he is trying to catch. She is on this revenge killing spree based off of something that happened to her and her brother 10 years prior. And I think what was really annoying about this for me is that I actually really like that premise. As someone who watches and listens to a lot of true crime and knows a lot about true crime. The beginning of it too was actually not bad. The first book in this, not bad. But it just gets progressively worse and worse and became the most melodramatic soap opera that happened to have themes of Criminal Minds and Dexter. Anyway, I'm gonna save the rest of it for my actual rant about it, but this book infuriated me by the end. I did not like it. I think I gave it 1.5 stars or 2 stars. 2 stars. Sorry, 2 stars. No, I'm not gonna recommend this. Absolutely not. The last book that I read in July is another indie self-published author, but that's The Rivener by Garrett Godsey. Garrett actually sent me this book, so thank you so much, Garrett. I'll admit, this was definitely outside of my wheelhouse. This is a concept and a style that I don't normally read, a style that I'm not normally very comfortable with reading. In this book, we are following a street runner named Kid who has just gotten out of jail. He transports black market packages, but on one of his runs, he comes across a dead body and he gets wrapped up into this underground syndicate called the White Lotus. And he's now on their list and he's getting tracked down and he's trying to escape, which then causes him to run into a girl named Alice, who has been in this school for violent sidekicks, and their paths cross. And Alice is known amongst her kind as a traveler, and she can go in and out of our reality into this psychic reality called the dream. And so they then pair together and are on the run. This reminded me of a mix between Stephen King and Neil Gaiman and The Matrix and kind of Inception in some ways. It is absolutely a psychedelic thriller, don't really know what's real, what's not. Very unique style, very unique book. Like I said, it's not normally what I gravitate towards, but I actually really loved Garrett's writing style. I thought it was very sophisticated, and it's a pretty hefty book, but it is action-packed practically from the first chapter. I did give it 3.5 stars. Again, the reason for that is just because of the nature of the book, and the genre isn't normally what I gravitate towards, but I was still engaged throughout the whole story, and I felt like the concept was reminiscent of really successful authors while still being unique. Okay, that is it. Those were all the books that I read in the month of July. Please feel free to let me know if you've read any of these. Also, make sure to follow me on Instagram and TikTok. I tend to be much more active on those platforms, since right now I'm really only posting on YouTube twice a week. So you can definitely get more intel on what I'm currently reading. And yeah, thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.